Hey, and welcome to my full CrewAI beginner tutorial. By the end of this video, you're going to be able to assemble your own crew of AI agents to solve any task that you need. Now we're going to do that by understanding what the CrewAI framework is. Then we're going to dive right into our first project. Then we'll take a step back, understand the main concepts briefly, and I have a few projects for us, including creating our own custom tool for our agents. We'll use Ollama so that we can use a local AI model and you won't have to worry about an open AI key. And we'll use a PDF RAG tool that's built in with custom CrewAI tools. All the code and resources that I'm using for this tutorial will be in a link in the description. Well, let's go ahead and get started and understand what the CrewAI framework is. All right, well, what is CrewAI? Well, CrewAI is an agentic framework that allows us to create agents to help us solve simple or complex tasks. AI agents will assume roles, they'll share goals, and they'll operate in a cohesive unit much like a crew. And we'll give each of these agents a task, such as developing a game, creating a blog post, or planning a whole 7-day trip together, which leads me into the first example that we're going to look at is the Trip Planner Crew. And how it works is it's going to ask you a few questions whenever you run it, the Trip Planner Crew. I'm saying that I want to be traveling from Miami. I want to go to Paris in 1 week in August, and tell me more about food and entertainment. And what it's going to do is actually go out to the web, search for everything we need to know, including hotel prices, restaurants, flight prices, what we can actually do there, and weather, among other things, right? So if we scroll all the way down here, it's doing a lot of work right here, right? It's really doing a lot of work. But if we scroll all the way down, it gives us a 7-day itinerary for Paris for the first week in August. You know, it's going through everything such as what the average weather temperature is, seasonal events and attractions, and it actually searched the web to get all this information and make it into a nice readable format for us. So we didn't have to do any work. It did all of this for us. So if we scroll all the way down, then it gives us a full budget summary, including the flights, food, and total estimated cost. Amazing stuff. I also executed a game builder crew that gave me all of this Python code to create a tic-tac-toe game. So I ran it and it works, and they made sure, the agents make sure that the code works, the whole crew works together. And then it's an actual playable tic-tac-toe game. And this is amazing. This is what the power of an agent framework can do for us. So let's get started and create our first crew. All right, well, let's create our first project. So I'm going to use PyCharm as my IDE or integrated development environment. You're more than welcome to use whatever you like. I know a lot of people like VS Code. I just like PyCharm. The community edition, which is the free version, makes it simple. So I'm going to open it up and choose to create a new project. I'm going to name my CrewAI course. For the environment, I'm going to choose Conda because whenever I've used virtual environment, I've actually had issues installing CrewAI because of the ChromaDB library. I spent some time on it, spent too much time on it trying fixing it. So I just switched over to Conda and it worked just fine. Right, I'm going to use 3.11 version, and that's all you need to do. And I'll have a link in the description to download Conda. It's really simple to download. So then after you're done, click create. Okay, now it's done. Whatever IDE you're using, open up your terminal. So in PyCharm, it's in the bottom left here. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to type in pip install CrewAI. And this could take a minute. There's quite a few libraries, especially as this framework evolves. It's going to add more things. So just give it a minute and we'll be back. Okay, we're done. You can type in clear to get rid of everything that's in your terminal. Well, actually it doesn't get rid of it. It just hides it because if you scroll up, you can see everything. So on Mac, it's Command K, it might be Control K, and that actually gets rid of all of the dialogue and kind of refreshes your terminal. So we can go ahead and minimize this and create our first Python file. So right click on CrewAI course, go down to Python file, just call it main, whatever you want to name it, and we can begin. Now, there's 3 major components to this first project that we're going to create, and that is the agent, the task, and the crew. Okay, and then we kick off the crew and it does everything for us. We'll get to tools later. But first we need to have our imports. So we need to import OS, and then from CrewAI, we can import the agent, the task, and the crew class. And then we are going to get to Ollama in a little bit, where you can use a local AI model. You don't even have to worry about OpenAI. But for now, we're going to work with OpenAI. So what we need are the environment variables. So environment os.environment, and then we need to say OpenAI underscore API underscore key. And I'll show you in just a second how we get our key. And then we also need to set the model for OpenAI. So OpenAI model name. And then I want to use whatever one you want, right? You can use 3.5 turbo. That's probably the cheapest one. But I'm going to use 4.0 as it's not much more expensive. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our API key now. So if you go to platform.openai.com, if you haven't logged in already, go ahead and create an account or log in, whatever you need to do. But after you log in, if you go to your settings here, and then on the left-hand side, you go to billing, you can see how much money you have left. If you don't have anything, for this course, you will need a couple dollars. So go ahead and put some money in here. Just for a little bit, we are going to switch to Ollama, like I said. But then once you're done with that, or if you already have money in there, go to your dashboard, go to API keys on the left-hand side, and then create a new secret key. So for this one, I'm just going to say CrewAI. And then you're going to copy the API key it gives you, go back to your project, and then just fill this in. And of course, this will be deleted by the time you guys see this video. But now we are ready to create our crew. So the first thing is we need to create our agent. Okay, so we're gonna say info, we're gonna call it info_agent. And then we just say agent, we instantiate the agent. And now we have to give it, there are 3 parameters of the agent class that we have to give in order for this to run. All right, that is, well, actually you can come into the agent real quick and we'll go over these soon after we finish this little project. And then I'll kind of go a little bit more in depth into each of them. We'll see a little bit more, but what you need are the role, the goal, and the backstory. Okay, so the role is kind of like the name. The goal is what you want this agent to do. Like, what's the objective? Sorry about that. The objective, like, what do you want this agent to execute or perform for you? And then the backstory is to kind of give a little more context to the model about this agent. So if we go back here, so we know we need the role, and I'm just gonna say information agent. And then for the goal, we have to give compelling information about a certain topic. And I'll go ahead and paste in the backstory as well. Okay, so you love to know information. You win most of the quizzes at your local pub. You may know some people like that. I certainly do. I'm not one of them. But so that's what this agent is. So now we're done with the agent. Okay, there are more parameters you can give. We'll get to later. But for now, this is all you need. Okay, so the next thing is we need the task. And the task is what we want to give to the agent to perform. So we're going to say task 1 is equal to task. And then we, again, need a couple parameters here that we have to have for this to run. So the first one is the description, or what is the actual task. So this one is to tell me all about the blue ringed octopus. So if you don't know anything about it, you're about to find out. And then it was an optional parameter, but we now need the expected output. So expected_output. And what this is going to do is say, hey, whenever you're done with, when you have this information, how do you want to present it? And this is kind of what we want to tell it. So I'm going to say, give me a quick summary, and then also give me, let's say, 7 bullet points describing it. All right. And then the last thing is we need to assign this task to an agent. So we can say agent equals info agent. And we're done. We have created our agent and our task. All right. And then the last thing is we need to assemble our crew. So we're going to say crew is equal to crew. And then we need to assign the agent. So you say agents is equal to, and even though we only have one agent, you still need to assign it as a list. So we're going to say agent or info agent, comma, and then we need to say task equals, and then also as an array, you can say task 1. Again, I know we only have one task, but it needs to be in a list format. And then I'm also going to add verbose. And what this is going to do is, as we run this, you can kind of see a little bit more of the output of what's happening behind the scenes after we instantiate the crew or kick off the crew. So that leads me to the last thing we need is we're going to say result is equal to crew.kickoff. And that's it. And that's all you really need. You'll see a lot in the examples. They'll have like, they'll have like a bunch of these, right? And then you can say print result. You can just print result. Okay, so when we run this now, okay, if I've shown you and everything has been correct, we have the API key, the model we want to use, and that's going to go ahead and be injected as the environment variable. And the agents are going to know to pick that up and use that as the model. What we can do now is just run this. So we can right click on main, go to run, or open up your terminal, and we're already in the course, right? So we can say Python main.py and go ahead and run this. Okay, so I ran this, and what we have is the debug this info. This is because verbose is set to 2. We see more information. And so I'm actually showing you this error because I used 4.0, but it didn't like that. If we scroll down a little bit in this error, it said the model produced invalid content. So I'm not gonna really look into that much deeper. So I just changed this to 4. And then after I ran it again, this is where we see, this is where I can explain how. So we have the working agent. So it's the information agent. This is the start of the crew. So then the starting task is tell me all about the blue ringed octopus. Okay. So now the output is this right here. So it has the quick summary of the blue ringed octopus, which if you didn't know was one of the world's most venomous animals. And then it also gave 7 key points about it. And the reason it did a quick summary and 7 key points was because if we look at the task here, the expected output, I said, give me a quick summary and then also give me 7 bullet points describing it. I mean, I know they're not bullet points, but still it's really close to exactly what I asked for. And then we have the print, then we just have the 2 print statements here. So you don't actually need these, but if you don't have verbose set to something besides 0, then you will need this because we only see, we only see what's in green here from the information agent because we kind of have it set to see what's happening in the background. Okay, so we've just coded our first crew. Awesome job. If you stuck with me, great. Okay, just pause in a couple sections if you didn't quite get there yet, but that's okay. I know this is a very simple crew. We're going to get to a little more complicated things, but now what I want to do is after you've seen it work, you coded something, let's take a quick step back and just look at the agent, task, and crew, and also the tools really quick, then get back into coding some other things. Now that we've seen code for a simple crew in the CrewAI framework, let's go over the 5 core concepts. And these aren't very hard to understand, but we need to go over them, and we've already actually coded 3 of them. The first one is the agent. Now, an agent you can think of as just a member of a team, or in this case, a member of the crew, and they have a particular job to do. And it has a bunch of attributes that we can assign to it to kind of help guide on what that job is. And this leads us into the next concept, which is a task. Now, in the CrewAI framework, a task is just something to be completed by the agent. We can give a description of the task, and then the agent will know what to accomplish. And then the task has a bunch of attributes to help guide what the task is going to be. The third concept, and I think is also an important concept that we are going to go over in the next coding tutorial, is a tool. A tool is just what helps an agent perform various actions. A tool can be something as simple, hey, I want to search the web, or give me a summary of this PDF in my local directory. And CrewAI makes it really nice to integrate tools, not just custom ones or ones that are already in Crew, but others such as LangChain. LangChain already has a ton of tools that we can choose from, and we can easily import these in to our CrewAI framework to use. But CrewAI also offers its own tools, and some of these are RAG tools such as a directory search or, like I mentioned, the PDF search. The fourth concept is pretty simple, and this is called the process. And this is just how we orchestrate the execution of the task by the agents. There are currently 2 ways to have processes right now, and it's either sequential or hierarchical. By default, you will be using sequential, but you also have the other option. We'll see how to change this when we build the next crew, which brings us to the 5th concept, and the last one is the actual crew. And all a crew represents is a collaborative group of agents working together to achieve a task. And a crew also has its own set of attributes, but essentially we just give the crew, we assign all the tasks and the agents needed for this crew. Okay, well, let's go ahead and create our new crew. And this time we're going to have a custom tool, and we're going to add some more attributes to the crew as a whole so you can kind of see what they do, and we'll end up saving the result to a local file. So in your course directory, go ahead and create a new Python file. We will call this tools example. Name it whatever you'd like. Let's go ahead and have our import. So we'll say import OS, and then from CrewAI, we need to import the agent, the task, We also need to import the crew, and then we're also going to have the process. Okay, and we'll get to the tool in a few minutes, and I'll show you how the process works when we assemble the crew at the end. Now, instead of, if you go back to our main Python file, we do need the API key name and the model name, but instead of just copying pasting this right here, which you certainly can do, a little better way so that we can abstract the actual property values, we can create a new file. So in the project directory, go to new, go to file, and name it .env. Okay, and what we can do here is actually just copy and paste the same, but this is going to allow us to have a separate file with the values for the key and the model. Okay, so then if you need to change anything, you can just come here and change them. You can change them here, and you don't also have to, when you push to GitHub, you can just git ignore the .env file. But we'll still have the logic in the tools-example to actually retrieve these. And now, how to retrieve them from our .env file that we just created, we do need to import another library. And so what we're going to do is import, or from .env import load.env, and then we can say load.env, so we can call the function from there. Okay, and what this is going to do is load the property values from the .env file. And then instead of having the hard-coded key and the hard-coded model, we can say os.get environment, so we can get the key for OpenAI underscore API underscore key, and we can do the same thing for the model name. So if that was kind of a lot at first, all this is doing is we're going to separate keys or secret keys that that shouldn't be exposed to a .env file. And then in the main file that you're actually working on, you can call and get those property values like this. Now, because this is going to be kind of a math example, and we're going to create a tool to do this, I do want in the terminal, when we run this, for somebody to give us a math equation. So in order to make that happen, I'm going to create a print statement. So we're going to say, welcome to the math whiz. And then we can say math underscore input equals, and then input, what is your math equation? Wait, what happened there? Okay, and then what this is going to do is whenever you input this, we're going to do something with this variable, which we'll get to. All right, now the next thing that we need is we need our first agent. And for this agent, we're going to call this math underscore agent equals agent. So now we've instantiated the agent class, and we need to give it the attributes like we did previously. Well, the first one is the role, right? This is the name of the agent. So we're going to say math magician. And then we need to give this agent a goal. What do we want it to do? So we're going to say goal is equal to you are able to evaluate any math expression. Okay, and then we also, the last attribute that you absolutely need to have is the backstory. And so we're going to say backstory is equal to you are a math whiz. And if it's in all caps, it has to be true. And then another one we're going to add is verbose equals to true. This is just allows us to see more what's happening in the background. All right, this is by default false, so you don't have to do anything with this, but I'm doing this here just as the core so you can see what's going on. And then the last one, which is going to be new, is going to be the tools attribute. And then this is also a list because you can give more than one tool to an agent, but we're going to call this calculate. So this is the tool that we're going to create in just a minute, and we're going to pass it into this agent. Okay, so in order to create this, if you've done a past CrewAI tutorial, you typically created a class, and then you use the LangChain tool, and then you created a function with the decorator, and or maybe you haven't at all, right? But it's been updated. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to create a class. I'm going to create a file and then just basically have a function, okay? And we can call that function from this Python file and use it. So what we need to do, let's just go over an example, right? Let's just do it. So create a new Python file. Let's call this calculator tool. And we do need one import from here. So we're going to say from LangChain underscore community dot tools import tool. Now, if you're using, like I said, if you're using a previous one, LangChain_community, you'll get like some deprecation error if you try to run this and you're not using this. And that's fine. It'll still run, but this is kind of like the updated version. And then, like I mentioned, you don't actually need to create a class, which you still can do. I have done it in examples, but I'm gonna make it a little less verbose. So we're gonna say @ so you still need the tool decorator. So @ tool, and then give it a name. And now we can go and create the function. So we'll say define, calculate, because that's what we named it, and then we'll pass in some equation, right? And you also need a docstrings to kind of give the AI agent or the LLM really a little more direction on what this function is supposed to do. So we're gonna say useful for solving math equations. Okay, and then we can go ahead and just have a simple return statement. We can say this returns the eval, which is math evaluation function, the equation. So we'll just pass in the equation here. Okay, and this is very simple. I know I would add like some sort of like try catch, so that you can maybe some syntax error or some other type of error that you could give, right? Maybe you're not giving any numbers, but I would do that. But for now, this is just for this course example. We're going to make this simple. So we're going to say return eval equation. And that's it. You've just created your first tool. Now, if we go back to the tools-example, our Python file, let's just go ahead and we can now import this. So from calculator tool, import calculate. And there you go. We have now given the calculate tool to the math agent so that it can use whenever we go to run this. All right, I just want to create the next agent so we don't have to go through all the boring stuff again. So you can pause this and go ahead and code this yourself, or it'll be in my GitHub. But I just created a writer agent that's basically going to take whatever the result was from the math agent, and we're going to end up making it sound really nice on how we solved it. We went over two concepts here. Again, we went over the agents and then the tools. The next one is the task that we need to give to these agents. So what we're going to do first is say task. Go ahead and give some space. Say task1 equals task. And again, we need a couple attributes. So we're going to say description is equal to, and then we're going to say F for format, and then quotes. And what we're going to do now is this math input, whatever we give in the terminal, I want to give here as a variable, and then this will be what will end up be going to the math agent to solve. And then the expected output, again, if you were using a previous tutorial on CrewAI, this was not necessary. This was just optional, but now it's not optional. We need to have it. So we're going to say expected output, and this is just give full details in bullet points. You can make this however you want, a summary, bullet points, a list of something else, whatever it is. And then finally, we need to assign this to agents. So we're going to say agent equals math agent. Okay, so for the next task, which is going to be for the writer agent, we have the description and we have the expected output, and then we have a new one called output_file. And what this is going to do is save the result that the writer agent gets into this math.markdown file. And what I've noticed is if you, in the expected output, if you say you specifically save it in the extension that you want to, such as Markdown, then also say that here, and then what it'll do is add triple tick marks at the top and the beginning, and that'll be kind of like the code output, even though this isn't code, but this will be like the output in Markdown. Don't add those, it'll kind of mess up with the formatting, which isn't a big deal. You can just delete it from the actual file, but this will just help you out, okay? So we now have our task for the agents. What we need to do now is assemble the crew and tell it what process that we want it to do. So we're gonna say crew is equal to crew. And then to assemble our crew, we need to give it the agents. This is going to be a list. So we're going to say math_agent, and then also the writer. And then for the tasks, we need to give it both tasks also as a list. So task 1 and task 2. Now, what we didn't do last time is there's another parameter called process. And this is where you can give it the type of process, whether it's sequential, which is that's what the default one is, or hierarchical, which we're not going to get into right now, but that's just a separate one. But like I said, by default, it is sequential, but just so you can see what it is. So it's a process.sequential. Okay, just so you can understand that. And then again, we're going to say verbose equals 2, so we can see everything that's going on. And then we are almost done. We just need to kick off the crew. So I'm going to say result equals crew.kickoff. And then let's go ahead and print this out as well. So print result. Okay, now what we can do is run it and see what we get. Okay, so I've ran it and it's asking what is the math equation. Let's do like, what is this, like Facebook ones where it's like +4 -2 times -2 divided by 4. Let's see what it gives us. All right. So the working agent is the math magician. The task, we just gave it the input. So this is just the input that we had, and now it what we're doing here is saying this is a straightforward arithmetic problem. Okay, well, I wouldn't tell Facebook that. And the action is calculate, right? So this is the tool that we're going to use, and the equation is this that we're going to pass in to the tool. So it's saying the result is 23. I don't know. We'll see. But then, so the final answer is 23. So it finished that part of the chain. Now the next working agent is the writer. So what it's doing is it says need to understand how the expression was evaluated to reach the result of 3. So they're saying they're going to out-delegate the task to the math magician who can explain step by step. Okay, so it's basically, looks like what it's doing is it's taking, it's saying the first step is giving like step by step, right? So the first step was to take 2 times 9. It uses the calculate tool again to do this. And it kind of breaks down the whole equation step by step on how it got there until finally you got to 23, right? So it said, I have calculated the addition operation 22 plus 1 to get 23. Okay, great. So the final answer are these bullet points on how that happened. So this is the result of how we got there, and then the writer is going to say now that he's going to give a detailed explanation of this evaluation. So this is the final answer. So the writer, the output is the mathematical journey of this whole expression, comes all the way down here, right? And then this is the output. And if you noticed, there is, let me minimize this, there is a math markdown file here. So if we click this, we open this up, here is so I'm sorry, on the right hand side is the actual markdown as like we would want to look at it. So it's saying here's the whole journey, PEMDAS, probably the only thing here I really remember, but it goes through how it solved the equation. And so we just had the agents tell us in detail it solved it by itself using the custom tool that we created. And that's pretty amazing, right? This is kind of a small step into what agents are really capable of. Okay, so for the next section, I'm going to show you how to use a local AI model using Ollama. I'm going to show you where Ollama is or how you even get these models. It's pretty simple and straightforward. And then we'll integrate that in with another crew. Well, the first thing we're going to do is in our course directory, let's just copy the main.py function and then paste it inside of our directory. And then let's just rename this main-Ollama, local AI. Okay, so now we have a copy of the main Python file. This is the very first one that we did. Okay, now there are a couple of different things we need to do here. And the first thing we're going to do is go to ollama.ai, it's the website, and I want to show you how to download Ollama. Okay, once you're at ollama.com, you'll see this big, well, not big, it's kind of small button, but it's pretty minimal website. So you just click the download button. It'll download the software for you, and it should auto run. If not, just go ahead and double click the executable or whatever machine you're on to start up Ollama. And for instance, on my Mac, up at the top of the screen, you can see a little llama symbol, and that means that I have a local Ollama server running. Now, the next thing we need to do is download a model using Ollama so we can run that with our crew. So what you can do is while you're in the Ollama website, you can come up to the top and search for models. I'm going to just go ahead and search for Phi3, or you can even just click the models tab here. So they kind of have like the updated ones or the more popular ones in the front. So you have Llama 3, Quen 2, and Phi3. Now I'm going to use a smaller model. So I'm going to use Phi3. So what we're going to do is just click on Phi3. Going to come up to the page with the models, and we have the 3.8 billion parameter version and the 14 billion parameter version. I'm going to use the 3.8 for my machine so it can actually handle this. So what we need to do is actually pull this model onto our system. We download it and then we can use it. So back in IntelliJ or whatever IDE you're at, open up your terminal, and we're in the CrewAI course. Now you're going to say Ollama pull, and then you're going to go and pull the name of the actual model. So in my case, I'm just going to say Phi 3, or you can specifically tell it, hey, I want the 3.8 version. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to say Ollama pull and then just paste that here. I'm going to press enter. And I actually already downloaded it and tested this, but this will take a few minutes, and it's downloading everything necessary for this model to run on your local computer. Now, what's happening is this is already running. We already have a server running, and all we need to do now is just give a couple properties to the crew, and we're good to go. But first, we need to import one more thing, and I'll explain why we're going to do this. So we're going to say from LangChain underscore OpenAI import chat OpenAI. And this object is we're going to give a couple of parameters to this object, and then we'll use that and inject it into our agent. And how we're going to do that is we'll just create a variable. We'll say LLM is equal to chat OpenAI, and we're going to pass in two things here. We're going to pass in the model, say model equals, and this is going to be just the model name that we pulled, right? So you're just going to, this is the same model name that we pulled. So you're going to just copy and paste that here as well. And the next thing we need is the base URL so we can connect to our local server. And in Ollama's case, if you're using like LM Studio or some other local server, that this URL will change. But for Ollama, it's http://localhost 11434/v1. And then next thing we do is we can get rid of this model name. We don't need that anymore. We still need to have some dummy OpenAI key here. So we can just type skproj111. It doesn't matter. You don't actually need a key. We just need to have some placeholder. And then the last thing we need to do is we have an agent, right? So now we need to tell this agent, because right now it's going to look at this, try to use the OpenAI key, and we don't even have an OpenAI model name anymore. So it's going to fail, all right? Even if we had the model name, it's going to fail because it doesn't recognize this key here. This is an invalid key. So there is another attribute inside the agent class. So if we add a comma at the end of backstory, you can say LLM equals LLM. Okay, and this is the reason why I created a separate object for this particular LLM. And that's because, let's say I wanted to copy this, I'll say LLM2, but I wanted to use the 14 billion parameter model this time. So I would go ahead and download the 14 billion parameter model. And now I could have, if I had another agent, I could instead have one agent with the 3.8 billion parameter model, and then another one with the 14 billion parameter model. But we're not going to get to that right now. I'm just going to show you how to run this locally. And you know what? Instead of having the blue-ringed octopus, let's pick another marine. Let's do the box jellyfish. Let's do that. And the last thing is you could do this a couple different ways, but I'm just going to show you this way is we need to have the OpenAI key before the chat OpenAI model so that it knows to just get our OS environment variable. Even though it's a dummy key, this will be given to the chat OpenAI, so it has a placeholder. If not, you'll get an error. So this line just has to be before we instantiate the chat OpenAI object. And now we are good to go. So we're going to go ahead and run this. And the thing about, it's really nice to have local AI models. The problem is if you don't have the hardware to back it up, and this is why I'm using a 3.8 billion parameter model, and this is still going to take a little bit of time on my machine, is if you don't have the hardware to really be able to run these things, then it's going to take a while and it could be a little frustrating, which is why a lot of times when I test things, I just want to use the 3.5 turbo model because it is so cheap and it's also quick. I don't have to worry, if I mess something up, I don't have to wait 5 minutes or more sometimes, depending on the model, to get the response and then change something again. So just keep that in mind. If you have a good enough computer, or if you have a decent computer, I would use a smaller model. If you have a much better computer, then you can use some of the larger models if you want. Okay, so it finished. I think that took like about 2.5 minutes to complete. So the same thing here, we have the working agent. We only have one, it's the information agent. And I want to tell me all about the box jellyfish. So it gave me a summary, and then it gave me 7 bullet points, more bullet points about it. And so then we just also printed out the same output, and great. So now what we've done is we just used a local AI model, paid nothing. And I know a lot of people are worried about that. We paid nothing and we still got a good result. Now, of course, the results will depend on these models, right? Not all of the local models that you use, especially if you use the smaller ones, they might not give you the best results. But again, it is free. Okay, great. So from now on, you know how to use Ollama to use any local AI model that you want. There are other pieces of software such as like LM Studio or TextGen Web UI that you can use. I'm not going to cover them because I do like Ollama. It's simple, it's easy to use, and that didn't take very long. But what I'm going to do now for this next crew that we're going to build is we're actually going to use one of CrewAI's built-in tools for RAG, and we're just going to use the PDF search tool. Okay, well, what we're going to do right before we create our new PDF RAG crew, I want to make this easier on ourselves. And the way we're going to do that is there's actually a CrewAI examples repository. It's a separate one from the same guy. And inside of here, there is a starter template project. And what this basically does is it gets rid of all the boilerplate code that you have to write every time whenever you create any agents, the tasks, if you need any custom tools, etc. Right? I don't think it actually has the custom tools, but whenever you create your environment properties, all of that stuff, and then you kick off your crew, it has a template here for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into the CrewAI course on my GitHub, update it because there are a couple of things that aren't updated that you will need or it won't run properly. And then we're going to use that as our starting point for the PDF RAG. Okay, and here we are. We have the starter template now in this course project. So this time, what we're going to do is just start from here. And let me just go over it really quick and explain what everything does. All right, so we have an agents and a task Python file. They kind of do what they say. This is where we create our agents, and then the task.py is where we create our tasks. So for instance, if we go in the agents here, we can see that we have a class. We can actually already defines a GPT 3.5 Turbo, a 4, and an Ollama using the Open Hermes model. And then you can use this on any of the agents down here, right? So instead of the 3.5, I could use 4 here, etc., right? Or you can define your own. This is just a starter template. And when we go to the tasks, this is kind of the same thing, right? It returns a task object and it has the description and the agent. And I'm going to update this so it has the expected output, which is what you will need also. And this isn't updated for that, or else it won't run, right? But what this does is we can just modify the info in these classes, and then we don't really have to do much else, right? Besides refactoring names and other things like that, but we don't have to write the boilerplate code. And then in the main Python file, we won't need all of this information either, right? This is just a template. But in this run function, we retrieve all the agents, we retrieve all the tasks. We can get define the agents here. We can define the tasks here. We create the crew, just like we've done. And then we say crew.kickoff and then return the result. And then down here is just kind of, some print statements on actually, running this. That has a couple inputs. You don't need these. Again, this is just a template. But what this does now is you don't need to worry about all that boilerplate stuff anymore. We can just start from here, which is what we are going to do. Okay, so all I've done so far is not much. I've went ahead and, you'll have this in my GitHub repository as well, or you can pause this and, make up some agents yourself, which I do recommend doing, right? You don't have to copy me verbatim. You can make up some of the stuff yourself, see what you get. But these two agents that are here, I just made one as a PDF analyst. I gave it a backstory. This dedent just takes care of, I think it takes care of white space or the trailing and leading spaces. But so don't worry about that too much. But I gave it a backstory, a goal, the tools, which we're about to do, the PDF tool, the LLM. I'm going to let this one use GPT-4, and the writer agent, I'm just going to let it use 3.5 Turbo. And this is a good example of being able to use two different models, right? You don't have to use the same one for every agent. And what we have here is we do need a tool for the PDF agent, but we haven't created this yet, but we're about to, is the PDF tool. Right, so how we do that? Okay, so the first thing in order to even get the PDF or all these other RAG tools or other tools in general that are a part of CrewAI already, we actually need to install them. So we're going to go to your terminal and you're going to type in pip install and then CrewAI tools. When you press enter, this is then going to install the other things that we need to make this work. Most of everything, the requirements are already satisfied, but we are going to need a couple more things, right? Especially for the RAG part, you are going to need to deal with ChromaDB, which is what I believe they use. Okay, so when that's done, we can now import the PDF RAG tool. So at the top, let's go from CrewAI_tools, import, and then you can see there are actually going to be a bunch of them, right? Even here's the Serper Dev tool and the Scrape website tool, but we just need the PDF search tool. Okay, now we just need to instantiate it to be able to use it as our tool. So now we can come down here inside, actually, I think just inside this function is fine. We can say PDF_tool equals, and then we just need to instantiate the PDF search tool. And now it recognizes the PDF tool, and that's all we need to do, right? This is an internal CrewAI tool, and that's it. And I can go ahead and get rid of just some things up here so it makes it a little neater. Okay, but now we can go to the tasks, and I'm gonna go ahead and fill this out, and you can maybe fill this out too if you'd like. Okay, so now for the task, all I've done is I've just kind of come in here, renamed the task to PDF task and let's say writer task. And then in descriptions, I said, I want exactly what I need to know from the RAG tool. We'll pass in the var1, and this will probably be an input whenever we go to run this from our terminal. And then basically I've added the expected output for both of them, which again is what we need. And that's it, right? These functions we're going to call from the main Python file. And then the agent that we pass into each task will be given here. And then the last thing we need to do, well, there's a couple more things. We need to go to our main Python file. If you're using PyCharm, you can kind of highlight over the imports and you can say optimize imports, kind of take care of all that for you. I don't need DuckDuckGo. I don't need that at all. I know that we don't need the OpenAI organization. Get rid of that. I don't need the second variable. We're only using one. We need to change now the agents.pdf agent and then agents.writer agent. In the custom task one, we can say task.pdf task. We don't need the second variable. And then for this one, we can say the writer task. Okay, and we just need to pass in the agent, right? And these agents are what will get passed into the task so it knows which one to assign to. So let's go ahead and just change these as well, so it kind of makes a little more sense. So writer, agent, I know they're kind of the same name, but it'll just help clear things up a little bit. Okay, so the PDF task here. Okay, and I'm not really worried about the task, so it's task one, task two. We can just rename these as well. Oop. And then task two. Okay, and then we are pretty much done. Oh, we also don't need var2. We only have one. And that's pretty much it. The last thing we need to do is actually set up our API keys, and that's it. So let's go ahead and do that, right? There's a .env_example. We don't need that. What we're going to do is create another .env file. That's just the example, but I can take this and then let's call this say equals, and then I just need to give in my API key, which I already have, right? I have that from a previous crew. So let me just copy this, put this in here, and then let's see if this runs. Okay, I think this decouple, I think I've already tried this before, and let me just see if this runs. I know it's saying that's an error and I don't have that, but it might be, actually, let's just go ahead and install this package. I think it's pip install python decouple. I think this is probably the last package that we need. And well, I forgot one really important thing is that we need a PDF. So let me go find a PDF. I'll add it to the project and then let's run it. All right, well, I've downloaded the GPT-4 archive paper. It's about 100 pages long. And then I think what we really need to do, I think we can do this as is. You don't need to actually give anything to the PDF search tool. But what we can do is give it the exact location of the PDF and the name. So I'm going to just refactor, rename, copy that, and then I'm just going to put this here. Okay. Now we can finally run this. So go to your main Python file and try to run it. Okay. So what I've done is, I ran it, enter the first variable, and I asked, can you tell me about contamination on professional and academic exams? And that sounds very specific, and that's because it is. And on about page 29 of the paper, here is a small section about it. And I just kind of want to see if it can give me something about that. Okay, so as you can see, it's inserting batches into ChromaDB. So here we have our DB that's now created, right? And now we have the senior PDF analyst. We're asking it, can you basically tell me about the contamination, whatever I'm talking about here, right? I don't really know, but so the relevant content. So what we're doing now is it's trying to find a similarity search. So it's getting relevant content based on hopefully what we find in the PDF. So let's look here. Okay, so I kind of did some scanning of the relevant content here, and it didn't get everything from this section. It kind of took part of these last 3 sections. It took all of this, and then it took some information from this table, which was on page 31, 30. It took some from this one too. So basically, what I noticed is it took some of this information here. I think it took all of this and some from from this section, and then it went to these tables and tried to find relevant information as well. Might not have been super accurate, but that's okay, right? It did give me some information, right? And so it has the comprehensive analysis. This is the task, and we have the final answer, right? It covers various aspects, blah blah blah. This is kind of a full analysis like we asked it to. Okay, so now the senior PDF analyst is done. It has the task output, and now we start with the writer. So take the input from task 1 and write a compelling narrative about it. Well, in this input, right, has from the previous analyst, the task is to summarize. This was the task to summarize the RAG tool PDF, and the context is from the previous agent, right, the senior PDF analyst. So now the writer is going to have the context that we got from the PDF analyst, and we're going to go here. It already searched and found this information, and the writer then has the final answer. So we have the title, which we asked it to. It gave us a summary, it gave us bullet points, and then the TLDR. Okay, and now so here's actually the result, right? The title, summary, the bullet points, and the TLDR. Okay, so we got it to work. We got the RAG PDF to fully give us everything that we need, and it did generally give us similarity search in the PDF, and it was a 100-page PDF, right? So it wasn't necessarily a small PDF. I know there are bigger ones. Hey, and thank you for making it to the end, and I hope you were able to create your own crews. This is not the only AI agent framework. I actually have 2 more courses, one of them on AutoGen. You can check that out here, and all the things that you need for this course will be in a link in the description. Join my Discord if you have any issues, and let me know what you've created. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next video.